Greetings, Rosannosaurs, Roseanne devotees, Roseanne fans, Rosanaholics, and Rosanna maniacs, and welcome to Roseanne Retrospectives. I'm Scott.
I'm Blake.
This is the podcast where we stroll through the Roseanne subdimension. What is the Roseanne subdimension? Well, in the series finale of the show, the Roseanne subdimension is revealed when we learn that Roseanne has really been writing a book about her life, and what we have been watching is her version of the story. In an effort to distinguish the Roseanne subdimension from the Roseanne reality, we review each episode of the show. Today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 5, Radio Days, or the episode where Roseanne and Dan write a country song. Today we are without Pat. Pat is selling games in Florida, so...
We miss her.
Yep. But she insisted that we continue on in her absence, so...
The show must go on.
Persevere we will. So we're just going to dive right into the episode. We got a good one lined up. Some good music, a good score.
Some confusing things. Some logistic issues.
So like many of our episodes, we start in the Connor kitchen this time. Dan is on the phone.
And he randomly slams it into the wall.
Yeah, he's discussing some lumber that he got shorted, and he slams the phone against the wall as his period. He says period, and then he, boom.
I guess that makes sense. It just seems overly physical.
It does.
But that's what we've grown to expect from Dan Connor.
Dan's a physical man. That's the way he expresses himself. So.
Yeah.
So Dan's pretty pissed about this, and DJ is sitting at the table playing with a truck, running his truck all over Dan's blueprints. He starts complaining to Roseanne about having been shorted all of this lumber.
And I was wondering, do you think that that's the same construction deal as in the pilot episode?
You think he's working on? You mean you think he's working on like the same project?
From when well, I guess not the pilot episode, but the episode where they got a lot of money, the second episode.
Right. Oh yeah. I don't know if he's like been working on the same project for an extended period.
That's what I was thinking.
It's possible, but they never make reference to that. But that would be cool if they had.
Yeah.
Dan's ongoing project where nothing went right.
Continuity.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any of that.
I don't think there's any of that either.
I think it's just, it's like a one-off job.
It's a one-off line, yeah.
But Roseanne tries to take Dan's mind off of his quickly failing construction endeavor.
She does, and she does it strangely. She emerges with a card from her drawer, which I don't know how she got in the first place, but this card somehow announces a radio contest.
Yeah, it's an entry blank, and it's like an eighth of a piece of paper. I don't know where she went to go pick up that entry blank. Maybe it came in the newspaper.
It's also kind of sad, like, A, if it came with the newspaper and only 4 people responded to it, or B, like, somebody printed up a bunch of cards and only 4 people took them.
Yeah.
Either one, like, I don't know how they only got 4 people interested in a contest.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we'll talk about that. With, like,
pretty decent prizes.
Right, we'll talk about that later, but I'm guessing that's the number of people in Lanford who had access to a recording studio, which is why Dan's song doesn't get played at all, because he didn't have access to a recording studio.
No, it was lo-fi.
And it's unclear where this song was actually put, but we'll get to that. So Roseanne is pressuring Dan to enter this songwriting contest because apparently Dan writes songs, which makes sense, because, I don't know, does it make sense?
No, I don't think it makes sense at all. He's a big, physical guy that looks like a lumberjack / football star.
Okay. I could see him being having a phase, though.
I mean, as the man who debuted as the football coach in Nerds, it's hard to believe that, like, he was off writing songs at some point in his life.
But it goes with his character that he would have some hobby that he abandoned. long ago because
Yeah.
he's got a lot of those.
I would think that would be like killing small animals or like punching holes in walls or
Yeah.
something like that.
Or building his boat, which is absent in this episode.
That actually does become a hobby that he abandons pretty quickly.
It might come back later in this season, but it's not there in this episode.
It's not going to be there for a while.
They didn't have room for it in the garage because they had to put Dan's trunk of shitty songs out there.
If you think about it, that boat wasn't even in the garage this time.
No, it was completely gone. They took it out.
That might be the last time we see the boat.
I hope so. I hope it only made it a couple episodes.
Some producer in Hollywood was like, we got bad notes
Lose
on
the boat. Lose the boat.
Lose the boat. Keep the kids.
Change that DJ.
Change the DJ. You know what else I was thinking of recently?
What's that?
DJ is a character in both Full House and Roseanne.
Yeah, I guess it was a popular name at the time.
It must have been.
Like,
I think it was popular to have abbreviated names.
Yeah, because I knew there were JTs and like TJs and
JRs.
JRs. Lots of JRs.
That was a big thing back then.
So, in place of Dan's boat, we now have a trunk full of songs in the garage. Roseanne is trying to goad Dan into entering this contest, which he secretly, you can tell he wants to do, but he's trying to play coy about it. He's finally convinced, though, when Roseanne tells him that he can win a grand total of $100 and the chance to hear his song played over the radio. That's the deal for him. Whenever there's money announced, he says, "Oh, that's great. That's a contractor job I don't have to do."
Yeah, I mean that's big money for them. $100.
Yeah, they could pay some bills.
Get some designer jeans.
Yeah. So Dan says he's going to do it, but only for the money. He doesn't care about the celebrity, but we know that that's bullshit.
He wants to be world famous.
He wants to be a giant Elvis.
He wants to be like Art Garfunkel.
Okay, so we now go to Wellman's Plastic, where Booker is sitting in the break area.
And people will say that George Clooney is a good-looking guy. He is a handsome man.
Oh yeah,
like
there's no doubt about it.
I have a guy crush on him. Like he's a good-looking dude.
No, I think that every time I see him, he really stands out in this show because they're so like. It's not the prettiest cast.
Can you say that? Can we say that?
Yeah, yeah. But
it's not an attractive cast in Roseanne.
He seems like he belongs in Chicago and not Lanford, but I mean maybe that's where he goes because he's going to disappear after this season. He's going to walk off into the sunset and join the cast of VR.
In a little bit. So second scene, we're looking at Booker and they're sitting in the cafeteria of Wellman Plastics.
And he's doing some paperwork, and then Jackie comes in to get something from the vending machine. She started her break earlier than all the other women because she feels entitled. Jackie's a rebel. She does her own thing.
She's just your kooky younger sister that hasn't found her husband yet.
Booker starts scolding Jackie for being out there 2 minutes early and asks her to sit down and starts discussing an attitude problem that she has.
Which is like clearly just blatant flirtation with her.
Right, it's sexual harassment.
Yeah. Had they, prior to this conversation, had like a direct conversation where he was like, I like you, and she was like, I like you? Or had they hooked up? Or had they done anything? And like, is this like in the middle of things? I feel like this is not the like first conversation that they had that was sexually oriented.
Probably not. It might have been a lot of flirtatious glances and just stuff like kind of ambiguous, but they both have an idea. Hey, there's something going on here.
Like, I feel like by this point in time, they've had the conversation.
Booker's been their boss for, I guess, we could assume.
A while.
Yeah, he's been there. Was he ever a new boss?
No.
Okay. So yeah, has been their boss.
She's just been there. Yeah.
So Booker suggests to Jackie that they work on Jackie's attitude problem somewhere outside of the office. Jackie says something like, "You mean the back seat of your car?" Because she knows what's going on. Booker, though, is being really straightforward. He's not even really dancing around the issue, and he's just like, "No, I want you to come to my apartment so we can have sex."
Yeah, he basically does say that.
Yeah, he's not very subtle.
So then the girls come in, and they start discussing country songs.
They talk about road songs and love songs. Crystal is fascinated with the concept of the hardship song because she describes how she's basically lived her life as one giant hardship song, and she gives a lot of great background information.
You know, and I was thinking, like, she gives this thing where she says that she left home at 16 and lived with her crazy aunt and got married at 17 and widowed at 18, and a tornado blew her car away, and then she got hospitalized with pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really that depressing. I mean, she kind of just got a clean break of things.
It's pretty depressing. That's a lot.
The pneumonia would be the worst part of that.
Yeah. It's nice that everything was spaced out evenly by year.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have stretches where that kind of stuff happens.
I think it's just the pneumonia makes that over the top. Everything
Yeah.
else you could be like, all right.
She didn't get pneumonia. I can see the tornado carrying away the car. It's the Midwest. That happens there.
Yeah, God just blows a lot of gales and wind at people that live in the Midwest.
Yeah. Especially in Lanford, Illinois. He
Oh,
hates
yeah.
that place.
He hates Lanford, Illinois.
That's
God
why-
likes to blow wind at Lanford, Illinois every chance he gets.
Anything he can do to keep the Connors from succeeding. I think that's the moral of the show. That the Connors are going to be perpetually struggling, pushing.
They're like Job in the Bible.
Yeah, or like Sisyphus. They're
Yeah.
pushing the rock up the hill.
Just push it upward.
That's the reality. And Roseanne recognizes that when she writes all of this.
Okay, so the third scene is back at the Connor house.
In the kitchen again.
Okay.
A majority of the show takes place in the kitchen, in case you haven't noticed yet. This is a kitchen-heavy show.
Yeah, you can write songs in the kitchen.
Roseanne, well, no, I mean just the show in general.
Yeah, that
not,
too.
Like just every episode.
Yeah.
It's a show about a family in their kitchen.
Most things happen in the kitchen.
That's true.
You know, I'm thinking about it. Full House had a lot of stuff happen in the kitchen too.
They did. There's like the kitchen and the living room. Those,
Family Matters didn't have like a prominent kitchen at all.
not as prominent. They did have stuff that went on in the kitchen.
But it was more
More
so
in the
that
living
like there was
room.
also like a dining room that was
Yeah,
attached to it.
in the living room.
Step by Step had a lot of stuff that happened in the kitchen.
It did.
I think generally if you're doing a family show, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you probably are centered in the kitchen.
A lot of the time. That's where you have dinner, and that's where the family is all together,
Yeah.
I guess. So it makes sense, I guess.
Mr. Belvedere was all set in the kitchen.
It was all in the kitchen.
I don't know why I just cited that. That's not anywhere on par with any of that stuff. But it took place mostly in the kitchen.
But yeah, back to the matter at hand. Back to the kitchen in the Connor household, where DJ is wondering where Dan is. He wants someone to fix his truck.
Which isn't really even broken in the first place. The wheel just appears to have popped off of it.
Right, but he can't figure out what to do because he's just a stupid little kid. He needs somebody to fix it for him. He doesn't believe that women are capable of that kind of thing, so he asks Roseanne to find Dan for him. But Dan's in the garage writing his song. DJ starts complaining about how Darlene and Becky just keep fighting. Roseanne kind of goads him into suggesting that they kill the two daughters.
I don't know if she goads him. She asks him what he wants to do with them, and he says, kill him.
Mm-hmm. So that's our death joke for the episode.
Yeah,
There's
you need at least one dead kid.
We have
joke.
We had another one coming up, but that's Roseanne needs to joke about killing her children at least once per episode. Oh, and speaking of that, things that happen once per episode, do you remember when they said corn in this episode? Someone must say corny.
Yeah.
It might have been when they were talking about love songs.
Oh, that's what it is.
Somebody says something about
That's
a
what
corny
it is.
love
It's
song.
corny love songs, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds okay.
Mhm.
I'll go with that.
I would be so impressed if they had the word corn in over 200 episodes of this show.
That'd
but
be really cool.
they discontinue it after season 1, unfortunately.
Too hard a challenge.
Yeah. That's asking a lot.
I mean, they can barely. Right now, it's been popcorn, and now it's corny. It's not even the word corn.
No, they've already used can of corn twice.
Right.
They're running out of ideas, and they're only 4 episodes in. Are we on 4 or 5?
I think we're on 5 now.
Yeah.
I mean, they really ran out.
So DJ goes into the living room and he's playing with his truck because all Roseanne had to do to fix it was pop the wheel back on.
Pretty easy repair.
Yep.
Didn't really need his dad for that.
And you can hear the girls fighting upstairs, and they're throwing pillows at each other and yelling.
I don't understand what they were doing in the first place.
No, they're fighting, but there's no like reason for them to be fighting other than they just don't like each other because they're sisters. But
And you can just tell that like it's very clear that there's nothing that they're actually fighting over. Makes it all very unbelievable.
Right, like this whole scene is just there, like as a bridge to fill out the episode.
Right. And it doesn't really work as a bridge because we can't really tell why they're fighting, so we really don't understand it.
Right. I guess this is just a way for Roseanne to tell the kids that Dan is entering this contest.
That's all.
Because they don't have any other reason to know.
Right.
Because Dan's not talking about it, and all of this is happening presumably very fast. Like I think Dan gets the entry in the morning, and then they go to work at the plastic factory. I guess Dan doesn't go anywhere. And then it's nighttime and he's writing the song. And then I guess does it get submitted the next day?
It has to have. I mean, it's all really quick.
Yeah, because then it's on the radio. Like the competition is the next day.
Right.
So none of this makes any sense from a timeline. I didn't even think about that when I did watching too, it. And it's just it blows through.
I thought of that as we were watching it, and it made me really nervous. I was like, how's that ever gonna... It doesn't make sense. How is it gonna work?
Right. So yeah, this whole scene with the kids doesn't even really... It's not really important. The kids are there. Roseanne just says, why don't you tape a line down the center of your road so then you're not going to be fighting all the time. This fixes their problem. This is another episode where things get set up that don't go anywhere.
Then we go to the garage.
And there's no boat in the garage anymore. Instead, there's just an old chest full of, I guess, like songs, but it looks kind of like a weird shrine that Dan has set up. Like when you look at it, it kind of looks like he's got little like relics and maybe candles.
I mean it's like a trunk, but it looks like everything is very meticulously placed inside of it. It looks like, I don't know, it just doesn't look right.
No, it looks kind of spiritual and weird. Like, I mean,
some sort of hippie thing.
Well, it is a lot of their stuff from their hippie days, but
I mean, and we were talking earlier, Dan and Roseanne really chronologically are too young to have been hippie. They probably knew older people that were considered hippies that were cool.
Right. So like it was like the beginning of hippie as the marketable product. So they were buying like the like inauthentic hippie records. They had their Strawberry Alarm Clock record, and they were doing fake acid that some older kid. Yeah. So Dan is out in the garage. He's supposed to be working on a song, but instead he's just fixing something because he's kind of given up. He doesn't feel inspired. Yeah,
he has a drill. That's more important to him.
So Roseanne picks up this big stack of his old songs and starts making fun of them. She picks up this stupid dance song that he wrote.
Yeah, it's called Give It To Me. The next song has a line that love is a rainbow of incense and cream, which I don't even understand.
No. Blueberry fantasy, tangerine dream. Love is a rainbow of incense and cream.
That just doesn't even make sense.
Well, what it sounds like to me is someone who grew up with this stuff around them and just was like, I want to write something original, but I'm incapable. I'm too influenced by my surroundings.
Right.
Like, all I can produce is a rip-off. I've written stuff like this.
Oh,
it's never. I've got a box, actually. That chest over there, full of...
That's your trunk?
That's my trunk. It's full of, like, weird relics and incense and bad songs. One thing that's impressive about Dan's songs is that they're written on what appears to be musical scoring paper.
Right.
If you look at it, like
it looks like it's spaced out and it's yellow in the way that scoring paper is.
So Roseanne stumbles upon something else that Dan was working on, and it's one of her poems that he has turned into a song, and he sings it for her with his guitar. He kind of works out the chords for her, and they get really excited, and they feel really proud that they're coming up with this brilliant piece of art and that they're going to win the contest, and they immediately start congratulating themselves. And, you know, we talked about the quality, the caliber of Dan's musical performance.
Yeah.
And
he's like an early Daniel Johnson. He's a little lo-fi, some acoustic, you know. It's not terrible.
It's not anything that is, like, it's not outlandishly bad. It's something that you could see potentially doing well in a local town songwriting contest.
Yeah. I could see that for sure.
But the thing that I feel like the biggest hurdle that they face is that they have no way of recording it. I guess that
Right.
Dan can play it into a cassette player, but they don't have any equipment. They don't have a studio. They don't have anything.
I feel like he had that paper. I feel like you wrote it down on that paper and you mailed it in.
I think so too, and I think that is part of why they lose. Not to spoil things, but Dan doesn't win $100.
Maybe they didn't get the entry in time.
That's very possible because all of this is happening really fast.
Yeah.
Like the contest is supposed to be tomorrow, the next day, and it's night, and they're in the garage.
And this is
just
the
writing the
80s.
song.
This is the 80s, so email doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. No, he didn't. He got out his Tascam 4-track and he laid it down real quick and he beat on a 5-gallon drum for some percussion and
That'd be sweet.
mm-hmm. Regardless, they're really happy about this song that they threw together in like 30 seconds. So now we exit the garage and we cut to Wellman's Plastic again, where it's the next day, I guess, and the contest is being announced. The winners are being announced that evening on the radio. So Pete, the creepy guy at Wellman's Plastic, is giving Roseanne a bunch of shit about how he heard Dan's going to be entering this contest, and he expects to hear him on the radio, and he's a really creepy guy. He gives a really creepy vibe whenever he says anything.
Yeah, One Line Pete is creepy for
He's
sure.
sinister. And I think in the reality he was just this creepy guy that they worked with.
Only he was creepier.
Yeah, he's not just
not just One Line Pete. In real life, he was really creepy.
Mm-hmm. He's like, you don't want to be alone in the room with him.
Yeah, like if you saw One Line Pete at nighttime, you would run.
Mm-hmm. Or you would go back in the office and ask for your boss to escort you to the car.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. All the women in the factory are popping pieces of plastic out of molds. They look like they're building models. There's a cockroach running around on one of the tables, and all the workers get freaked out, and then Roseanne kills it because she's stronger than everybody.
Are you scared of cockroaches?
I would be creeped out if I saw one. I don't know. Insects don't scare me as much as it's just I don't really want them crawling on me.
I feel the same way.
They creep me out, but they don't actually give me fear. They're not going to do anything.
No,
it's
they probably won't.
I would have a tough time killing a cockroach the way Roseanne does, though.
I should do that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like killing insects, especially when it leaves a lot of goo. I don't like breaking an insect. That grosses me out. I'd rather just shovel it away or something.
Yeah.
Because you have to clean it up, but Roseanne clearly has no problem doing that, and she just smacks it right on the counter. And Booker comes in. Roseanne is giving him trouble because apparently this is a problem at Wellman's Plastic. They have a lot of insects, and he keeps saying he's going to take care of it. But he walks in, he drops his pencil, and he bends over, and all the women give him a big woo as he bends over, which is pretty fun to see. Some reverse
sexual discrimination.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. And then so he's walking back, and Jackie gooses him on the butt, and he gets really angry about that, and calls her into his office and starts yelling at her about how she's got uncontrollable lust and they can't do this during the workplace, which it's really weird because he's been coming on to her really heavily.
Yeah, he has.
And then she responds flirtatiously, but it's in more it's more out in the open, which it should be. And he gets really upset by that because he wants to have this secret kind of relationship.
I hadn't thought of that, but it's true.
I get the impression that he's doing this with a lot of people at Wellman Plastics. That he's had that conversation in the break room with every woman that works there.
What do you think was happening in real life?
In real life, they had an abusive boss, and he did not look like George Clooney. That is for damn sure.
No.
That Roseanne wrote that part in. The whole Booker character was Roseanne's fantasy about
the boss
her.
probably looked like Pete.
Yeah. Pete might have even been the boss.
Oh.
It was just the kind of guy that gives you the creeps as soon as you step into the office and he's there.
Not good.
No. So Booker pulls Jackie into his office. Jackie's last name is Harris, by the way. We learned that this episode. So Roseanne's maiden name was Harris before she married Dan Connor, presumably.
Yeah.
Some Roseanne trivia for you.
Be.
So Jackie gets yelled at in Booker's office, and it's weird. Booker's really, really angry about it. It's unclear what they're really arguing about. He's kind of threatening to fire Jackie, which doesn't make much sense. But anyway, whatever the conversation they have, Jackie gets pissed off, and as soon as she leaves the office, she just yells that Booker gave her his phone number. Booker's embarrassed. That's all we're gonna see about that. That's the end of that side plot for this episode.
Yeah, that was that was a pretty boring segment, truthfully.
It lets us know, though, that Booker is sexually harassing Jackie, and that's going to continue for the rest of the season until he disappears.
Yeah, it is.
When he leaves the plastic factory and then just moves out of Lanford, I guess. So this is really the beginning of that Jackie Booker romance plot that we'll get to see more of. That's all for Wellman Plastics. Now we cut back to the Connor household, to the kitchen/living room. I think there's some stuff that happens in the laundry room, too. The Connor set. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, we got it now.
So Roseanne is making popcorn. This is where the corn episode,
right,
or the corn reference for this episode occurs. She's making a bunch of popcorn. She says, "I popped you some corn." They're waiting for the radio contest to come on. They're very confident that they're going to win this thing. Dan, I guess, slapped down his song on his boombox and shoved the tape in the mail. Or you think he just gave him a piece of paper?
I think that's what he did.
And I don't know, how they... Because the prize that you're supposed to win, if you win the grand prize, is you get $100 and you get a chance to hear your song on the radio.
Yeah.
So you would think they would know they need to provide a song to play on the radio, that they can't hand in sheet music and expect one of the studio musicians to play it live on the radio.
Yeah, you can't expect that they would be playing home recordings live on the radio. So I think they probably have a team that redoes the songs.
Oh, okay. So you think they have an in-house team that took the entries that they received the night before, went right into the studio. It was this is the winner.
Well, you don't. Yeah, They didn't play the songs.
They start playing the one that wins.
Okay.
When Dan shuts it off, as soon as it starts, Daisy's in the wind.
Yeah, I think that's what they did.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. Well,
okay.
It makes the most sense to me out of a lot of illogical options.
At the time, yeah. I mean, it makes, when you think about it now, it's a no-brainer. You can get a professional sounding track with almost no money. If you have a Mac and GarageBand and a guitar, you can put something that you could put on the radio out, but in 1988 or whatever, I don't think that was a possibility, unless Dan's some kind of audio engineering genius. We just don't see that part of his character.
Yeah, that might be his talent.
One of Dan's many talents: breaking things, drinking, and recording.
Lo-fi acoustics,
microphone placement,
mic placement, lo-fi recording.
He's just a regular R. Stevie Moore. So the family gathers around the radio, and they wait to hear the winners of the contest announced. There's a lot of suspense built up as they announce that there are only 4 entries, 3 prizes. They announce 3rd through 1st, and Dan and Roseanne don't win any of them. So we are left to conclude that Dan's song was the worst out of any entry, all 4 entries, and that's all there is to it. Dan loses, and instead a song called Daisies in the Wind wins. That sounds like it's probably a good song. Some hippie shit, but I mean, we know that
I just think Daisies in the Wind sounds exactly like their song.
Yeah, it sounds like they I'm assuming the 4 entries are very similar in their skill.
Probably.
But when they start playing Daisies in the Wind on the radio, it sounds like it was professionally recorded. There's a slide guitar. You only hear it really quickly, but...
Yeah, it does.
It's the only guys in town with a good recording studio. A really unfair advantage in this contest. So Dan goes into the kitchen. He's clearly kind of hurt that he didn't win, but he's taking it in stride. I think in reality, this is him. He goes on a bender here. This is his chance to be Elvis.
Oh, in reality.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the what really happened during this episode.
Okay, so what do you think that what happened in reality with the songwriting thing? What do you think happened?
I think that I think he did see a contest in the paper and he wanted to win it.
Did he enter?
I think he entered, and maybe he threw down some really poorly recorded drunken strumming of his guitar and yelling. It didn't win because it was indecipherable gibberish and not notes. But I believe he does have he wants to be a rock star or a country star.
I can see that. Okay.
He's got a delusion about it.
Do you think anything happened with the kids this episode?
It feels like they just got wedged in to fill out the episode.
That makes sense to me.
they had to be there to listen. Like, because I think when Dan loses, he probably breaks a lot of stuff.
I guarantee he
Like
does.
he goes on a bender, and maybe the kids stop fighting because they see how frightening violence can be. Like this is this is the path we're headed down.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
that's what I think happened.
Makes sense. So there's one last scene.
There's one last scene. They get the kids come into the kitchen because they feel bad that Dan didn't win. They ask him to play his song for them one last time, and thankfully this will be the last time we ever hear this song.
Thank God for that.
The whole family sits around while Dan plays it, and everyone looks kind of uncomfortable. I don't know. When Dan plays this song, it strikes this weird feeling in me. Like, I don't know. In life, there will be periods where someone will have an acoustic guitar, and like the second they start playing a chord, you feel uncomfortable. It's like,
yeah,
this is a place I don't want to be right now.
My mom's husband does that.
Yeah.
He if you ever go anywhere with him, or if he comes to visit, he'll pull out his acoustic guitar.
That's awful.
And play for you. And like he's not very good, but like you can't tell him that.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
And the other thing is like he likes to not only play like one song, but will play like 6 or 7 in a row.
Ooh. Yeah,
like,
that sounds terrible.
To stop. He doesn't know to stop.
That's weird for that to be an adult. There's a lot of college kids that are like that.
Yeah, there's
like, that's pretty common. Every college has like
kids can do that. When you're like 50, that's a weird thing to be doing.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes though, it's just like the sound of the acoustic guitar makes me feel uncomfortable. It's almost like you're gonna start to have like a praise and worship session, and someone's gonna start like singing a song about Jesus, and they're gonna look at you like, "Why aren't you singing?" And I don't know. Maybe not everybody had those experiences growing up, but I had a lot of those experiences.
I don't think I had any of those experiences.
Those are scarring. That's what I think about when I hear acoustic guitars. It ruins acoustic music in a lot of cases.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that can ruin acoustic music.
God is one of them.
Yeah, God is one of them.
So yeah, there is one last scene after the family sarcastically listens to Dan's song and humors him. Then we cut to the garage where the kids are going through Dan's chest, or Dan and Roseanne's chest of memories, and pulling out all their weird hippie stuff. Roseanne's got these like peace sign earrings, and these like John Lennon sunglasses, but the kids like all this stuff because this is like the period when the 60s and 70s were being resold to Gen Xers.
Right.
It's like this, kitschy,
really cool time.
Like what's going on now with the 80s and 90s, like really heavily.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got high top fades again. It's a repeating cycle that we're seeing.
It is. It's a self-repeating cycle.
Oh yeah, and they find her all of her stereotypical 60s garbage, her mood ring, and then Dan and the kids run off with their new little gifts that they got from the memory box, and Dan and Roseanne talk about how their stuff is what they are and they can't throw it away even though it's junk.
So let's do our favorite part of the show to end this episode.
Okay.
What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is thinking about what the recorded quality of Dan's song must have been. I believe that they threw down a really quick cassette recording, and the people at the radio played it and were like, we can't put this on the radio. Like, this can't win. We have a professional recording from some guys that own a studio right outside of Lanford. They have to win. It just is the best song.
That's pretty good. I think mine was when Roseanne asked DJ what he wanted to do with his sisters, and he said, kill them.
Oh, good. Going with the old death joke.
That's one of my favorite dead kid lines.
All right, yeah, so that's the episode.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
Follow us on Twitter and go to our Facebook page. Our Twitter handle is...
You tell me I got a lot wrong last time.
Roseanne Retros, our Facebook page, Roseanne Retrospectives. If you search for that, you're bound to find it.
And we'll have links out to all the podcasts on there.
Leave us some terrible comments on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube comments are always great.
Some great feedback on iTunes because that's more meaningful. And tell all your friends to listen to it. And
that's it.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah.
May Roseanne stay with you.